Prepare yourself for a talk radio experience like no other.
Strap yourselves in and hold on.
He stands for truth. He stands for justice. He stands for what's right. This is the Alex Jones Show. Call Alex now, toll free, at 877-590-5525. Now live from Austin, Texas, here's Alex Jones.
All right, let's go ahead and go to your calls. Who's been holding longest? Ed in Northwest Austin, you're on the air, sir. Welcome.
Yes, hi. I heard your interview with Willie Nelson a few weeks ago where he talked about 9/11. And so is your guys' theory that the federal government planted explosives in the Trade Center buildings before the planes struck them?
Yeah, Bill Christensen, who was CIA section chief in Europe, believes that. Bill Doyle, the head of the biggest 9/11 victims group, says the majority of the 9/11 families believe it's an inside job. We have Bob Baer, the movie Syriana's about, famous CIA commander, saying all the evidence points towards inside job. Did you know there's a whole bunch, over 200 declassified examples where our government admits they staged terror attacks and blew up buildings in other countries to blame it on their enemies? I mean, first off, are you aware of that?
No, sir, I'm not. But why did the government do that?
Well, why did Hitler, and by the way, we always had the documents on this in Europe 60-something years later, Marinus van der Lubbe, they grabbed a retarded, mentally ill person, thrown him out naked on the side of the street, and said that he'd firebomb the Reichstag. Hitler then used that to become dictator and pass anti-terror laws and start grabbing the homeschoolers, and that's who he started with. And
your position then that the government coordinated this with the people that did that on 9/11
no, that's not
impose less freedom on us? Is that your position?
Well, they have said that Al-Qaeda attacked us because they hate our freedoms, and then the government's done everything they can to take our freedoms. So it's true that Al-Qaeda attacked us to get our freedoms, and it's true that our government founded Al-Qaeda. Zbigniew Brzezinski just wrote another best-selling book where he brags in 1979, 6 months before the Russians invaded, they created a code name Al-Qaeda, and that means the base of CIA operations in Central Asia. And then they launched Operation Cyclone. This is all declassified now, to attack Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, and several other of the Russian satellites to get the Russians to invade. And then that whole thing was a large setup. I know they have a Tom Hanks movie that claims the CIA got involved in 85. But
you're flooding me with words here. I'm trying to stick.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm flooding you with facts, Bubba.
The people that piloted the planes, they coordinated that with the government who planned the explosives?
Well, who says that the official story that those guys supposedly piloted those planes? Whoever said that fairy tale was true or real?
Okay, you do not believe that.
Oh, no, I do not. Sir, it isn't that I don't believe. Okay? It isn't that I don't believe. I have the Associated Press. I have the San Jose Mercury News. I have the Pensacola News Journal. I have Newsweek. I have the Toronto Star. Did you know that I interviewed the two heads of the Saudi Arabian U.S. Embassy in Saudi Arabia in Riyadh, and I interviewed the head of the main U.S. Embassy, Mr. Springman, in Ottawa, Canada. I know those are words, but Canada's a place. And I interviewed him. That's the capital up there in Ottawa. It's very beautiful. And about a year before 9/11, these guys are coming back into the U.S., and they're flagged as top-level terrorists, and he's not giving them visas. And all of a sudden, he's the head of the embassy. He gets a call from the State Department saying, let them in, that's their cover. He says no. Then the deputy of Secretary of State calls him and says, they're not terrorists, they're CIA agents. The terror designation is their cover. Now, that was in the Canadian and British papers, and I thought, my goodness, I better call up and get that former heads of the embassies on the show. Okay, now you can say those are words. Your little story is you're going to talk real slow, like you're real smart and I'm real dumb, and you're going to go, okay, you think. See, first I explain our government admits they stage terror attacks and blame it on enemies to start wars. That's been declassified hundreds of times. I tried to give you examples of that. And then you said, why would our government do it? Same reason Hitler firebombed his own capital. To say, oh, look, we're under attack. I got to take all your rights and be your king, and you can't question me and my no-bid contracts to Heinrich Himmler and Hermann Goering and Jens Röhm and the rest of them. Okay, so I'm answering your question. Government stage events, it's called problem, reaction, solution. Yeah, Gulf of Tonkin, I remember being called a conspiracy theorist 5 years ago. That's now been totally declassified, that was all staged. To get us into Vietnam, killed 58,000 Americans, over 1.5 million Vietnamese. The former Italian president, the former head of their intelligence agencies, went public 2 months ago and said that everybody in intelligence knows the U.S. staged the attacks against itself, but not the U.S., the criminal elements. The number 2 in the Japanese parliament, the head of the second largest party, has been having public month-long investigations, 30 minutes, an hour, live on television, every night in Japan. They're all glued. Former congressman went public on my show Friday saying he believes it's an inside job. That's up on prisonplanet.com and Infowars.com. Andres von Bülow, the former Secretary of Defense of Germany, he was also the former head of intelligence before that, has gone public saying inside job. Number 3 in the Blair government, Michael Meacher, I flew to London to interview him, went public saying all the evidence says inside job. I mean, I can go on for like 10 hours here. Physicists, scientists, engineers, architects, the head structural engineer on the World Trade Centers, directly under the head architect, has gone public saying it's impossible for jet fuel. Underwriter Laboratories secretly did its own tests. It had underwritten the buildings, Tower 1, 2, and 7, and found that it had to be blown up. And then they weren't allowed to release that information. And when Kevin Ryan did, the head of that division, he got fired. Now listen, I got loaded phone lines. I can't spend all day with little children. 84% of Americans in major polls believe the government's lying about it. Okay? So your ball game's over, buddy. We know crooks run the nation, so you can talk real slow and act real smart. Bush isn't a conservative, Barack Obama's evil, and you're a moron. We'll be right back. Stay with us.